We all knew that Avatar would come out and be pretty successful. We didn't know, though, if it was going to hit the $2 billion mark that James Cameron said it needed to, and while audiences are loving it, it did over $100 million less than it needed to hit the weekend box office numbers they were hoping for, leading to people talking about how successful movies can actually be. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So this is a Business Insider article. It says Avatar: The Way of Water failed to live up to box office expectations on its opening weekend report, say, putting pressure on Disney's $2 billion bet. Now, this is leading to a lot of people questioning how successful movies can actually be, which is a great question, in my opinion, because I think we all knew that Avatar 2 was going to be successful. People loved Avatar 1, it did really good, and we have been waiting for years at this point for Avatar 2. But $2 billion is a lot of money. And while I think that it will make that eventually, I think it's going to take multiple theatrical releases just like one. Avatar 1 has been released in theaters several times, and it has made a lot of money. And while you would expect Avatar: Way of Water to, catch up to it eventually, the numbers that they were expecting for opening weekend were enormous. I mean, they wanted over $500 million for opening weekend. They wanted hundreds of millions domestically. And while they did make money on this over the weekend, they have a long way to go. And I do truly think that they had too high expectations for this film. It says, it looks like the much-hyped Avatar: The Way of Water is so far clocking in below box office expectations. Again, I think that they expected way too much on opening weekend for this movie. Now, a big question will be, will it survive over the next few weeks? Especially going into the holiday weekend. I do think that this was a great weekend to release. It's weekend before holidays. They're going to have Christmas weekend basically all to themselves. And yeah, I think that that was smart. But even if you've got the best weekend possible, will it hit the numbers they want? I don't know. It says in a statement reported by Bloomberg Saturday, Disney cut its forecast for Avatar, saying it was likely to garner between $130 million and $150 million domestically on its opening weekend in North American theaters, below an initial forecast of at least $150 million. So we are talking about them barely hitting those numbers, and those were not even their initial projections. Those are lowered. It says sources told Deadline on Sunday that the film had come in at the lower end of the range with a $135 million purse from its opening weekend in the US and Canada. Box Office Pro analyst Sean Robbins had predicted earlier this month the movie would bring in somewhere between $167 million and $192 million after positive hype, and very clearly it did not hit that number. Now, also keep in mind that these numbers were domestically. Internationally, it made over $441 million, but they were expecting it to do over $525 million internationally. Now, I have said this multiple times, I liked the first Avatar film. It was gorgeous, the story was pretty decent. I thought overall it was a great start to a brand new franchise, and I think that Way of the Water tops the first film in a lot of ways, and I mean, the audience scores do not lie. It's sitting at a 94% audience score right now. People are absolutely loving Avatar. It is a gorgeous movie, but Disney put very high expectations on this film, and a major problem is that if this movie doesn't break that $2 billion number, what are they going to do? Okay, because they have like 6 movies in this franchise planned right now. We know they at least have to come out with 3 because 3 is already filmed and they have to still edit it and add special effects afterwards, but we already know that 3 has to come out. Would they end it after 3 if this movie doesn't make the money they're expecting? Will they decide to cut their losses and run? Will they decide to do all 6 movies? We don't really know, but it is kind of Disney's fault for putting such high expectations on this film. The article also mentions how despite going on to become the highest grossing movie of all time with a 2.9 billion take, the original Avatar was a relative flop on its opening weekend in 2009 as it took in 73 million, Business Insider reported at the time, which wasn't really surprising because it was a brand new franchise. We didn't really know what Avatar was going to be except a very pretty movie. That's the only way they really marketed the first film, and then it came out and people really loved it, but people weren't really sure what to expect, but we knew what to expect with The Way of Water. I do think that give it some time, it will be considered probably one of the most successful movies ever. I do think that it will go on to make billions. I don't think that we're going to see a massive flop or a failure here. I think that it is safe to assume that eventually it will probably make the money that it needs. But Disney kind of did this to themselves, right? They released this movie and they were the ones who were saying we need it to make $2 billion. I mean, they told James Cameron that. And it just kind of leads to us realizing how, yes, these companies always want to push the boundaries and make more money, but they don't really know where to stop themselves. They don't really know when to say, okay, clearly consumers are not going to hit this opening weekend number that we're forecasting. We don't even know if it's going to hit the 2 billion that we want it to technically hit. We just have to hope that it's going to do good. And Disney has done this several times lately, especially with Strange Worlds. It ended up losing them $100 million, but they went all in with that film. They expected it to make them money, to do great at the box office, for families to love it, for adults to love it, and nobody ended up loving it. So it just kind of shows where Disney is right now. But as you can see, Way of the Water did fail to meet box office expectations for opening weekend, putting pressure on Disney's $2 billion bet. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.